Hello everybody and welcome to another cancer update video. This is something that I was planning on doing a lot more once we got to the hospital here, but unfortunately I haven't really felt up to making them as much. And so this video is just going to be a lighthearted sort of like basically stuff, kind of everything that's gone on so far. I don't think I'll be super duper detailed about everything. For me, these videos served two purposes. The sort of less important one is to let everybody out there who cares, or even people, people who stumble across these videos or whatever, just sort of know what's going on, what's happened so far, keep track of me. And that is very important to me, but I think that it's less. I don't think there's a ton of people, doing that. If you are watching this video, I do. By the way, my name's Patrick Musilek. If this is your first video here, welcome to my channel. Normally we do reactions to music. We've just been uploading some Beatles stuff recently. We're going to be doing some Tool and some Slayer, and I want to do Motorhead. Once I get out of this place and we start recording more regular videos. But we've got a lot of Metallica videos on the channel, lots of stuff like that. And normally we do reactions to music that I haven't heard for the first time, or several other people on the channel here help me. 2 Chris's and a Cody, and sometimes, very rarely, my nephew Hunter. And so anyway, feel free to look around the channel if any of that sounds interesting to you. I have been doing a couple cancer videos since I was diagnosed with leukemia last January 9th, I believe, which would be January 2024. I'm recording this today. It is Sunday, April 13th, 1 week before Easter, which I will be spending Easter here. And I do have the microphone set on the table, so that's, yeah, whatever, doesn't matter. Okay, so I've done a few cancer update videos, and the other thing, other than allowing people to stay caught up with my whole situation here, the other thing that these videos are, for me, is a time capsule of everything that's been happening. And if you watched my Cancer Update Volume 3 video that I uploaded right before we came into the hospital, you'll realize that you'll have noticed that I had a really hard time recalling what we did. My first 2 Cancer Update videos are full of details because I recorded them, one I believe in January when we got out of the hospital initially, 2024, and the other in March 2024. And then I didn't record a whole video until March 2025. So I had an entire year's worth of stuff in the video that I was trying to remember, and it was really hard because we fell into such a regimented schedule that it was hard for me to kind of remember, try to find things that stood out. I also have to say up front here that I'm going to have to probably be taking sips of water throughout this because my mouth gets really dry. It's a side effect of some of the drugs and all the things that I've got going on, chemo and all these things. And right now, the thing that's the most, it's expected to happen, but the thing that's going on that's kind of the most bothersome right now is my throat hurts really badly when I swallow. So I'm going to try not to swallow as much as I can during the video, but anyone who's watched this channel before knows that I sure like to talk. So also, normally I try to wear nicer looking shirts than this in my videos, but I happen to have this one on, and it's a real pain to change because I've got all this stuff hooked up to me here. I think right now we've got just 3 things, which actually isn't that bad compared to what's been going on. But, so yeah, this video is just going to be kind of going over what's gone on since I came to the hospital. One thing I did want to mention, though, because I said in the Cancer Update Volume 3 video that I was going to talk more about it in a future video, and I better do it now before I forget about it. I mentioned that I'm not sure what day it was, but I knew we were being admitted to the hospital on March 28th, 2025. And the week before that, in Nebraska, where I live here, we had a terrible storm. And the storm happened on a Wednesday. So the Wednesday the week before I came into the hospital, we had a really terrible winter storm here. It's the first time I've ever, since in my 38 years, I don't think I've ever seen a storm like this. I have videos and stuff from it that I'll maybe try to put in the video here. But I did find out while I was working on editing the video for for Update Volume 3 that my phone, I've had a setting on I got a Google Pixel phone. My sister actually bought it for me, which is amazing. But my contract was up with Verizon. I'm on my sister's family plan. And anyway, I got a Pixel, and I had a setting set on it that wouldn't allow videos to be used unless I paid $1 for some stupid Microsoft codec. So I might have to do that. It just makes stuff easier. But anyway, I was trying to put some videos at the end of that one, just some nice little family videos and fun moments I had. And I found out I couldn't use any of the videos from my phone. That I've basically nothing from my phone that I couldn't use anything other than the pictures since October when I got, or since Thanksgiving, which is when I got my phone. Thanksgiving, Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving, last year. So that was a big bummer. But I do have footage of the blizzard, and I'll maybe insert it here so you guys can see what it's like and stuff. I have never seen anything like this. It's absolutely, this is a blizzard. This is a blizzard. Okay, so we've got, I did get the flag filmed. I'm gonna walk around the corner and just show everybody what it's like when you walk around the corner, okay? Here I am, and it's fine, and then it's not fine anymore. It's absolutely terrible. My goodness. My goodness. It's a really interesting day out. And we, I don't know. Blue skies. Nothing but blue skies. Here, I'm gonna do that again. I'm gonna go out and show you guys what it's like. Probably be doing this to my phone.
It has been a pretty crazy day. We've had all sorts of crazy stuff going on, but the sky is beautiful. We still don't have power. We don't know if we're gonna be getting it or not, but I guess you gotta do what you gotta do, right?
And so hopefully I was able to put some clips in there. That was absolutely crazy. And we lost power. We were without power for 6 days, was it, Mom? You can talk. My mom's in the room with me here. She's been with me almost the entire time here, and almost the entire year as well. Anyway, we lost power for 6 days. It was off from Wednesday until the following Tuesday. And that really put a cramp in my preparing to come here to the hospital, like my prep time for coming here. And I was going to do lots of work on my computer. I was going to get stuff ready at our house so that I could just like leave things in sort of piles so that they could be brought if I needed them. And I lost a lot of time, and so that was a big bummer.
So it has now been 3 days without electricity, I guess 2 full days. It's Friday morning, the day after Assassin's Creed was released. I have not been able to, we haven't been able to do anything. We can't take showers, we can't flush the toilet, we can't do anything. I had a rough morning because something didn't go right, which is fine, not a big deal. Family's coming to visit today, and I don't know if they should. It's Hunter's birthday. We're trying to celebrate that. They wanted to come see me before I go into the hospital. We are 1 week away from that, and it just hasn't been a very good time. So it's not terrible out. I guess it's actually pretty decent out. We've been lucky, I guess, the last 3 days that they weren't like the day before and it didn't pile on. It's sunny out, but you know, a lot of the snow is gone. Still no electricity though. And it's a real bummer. It's a real bummer. I wish I could be getting ready, and I just can't because there's the tree that's down. There's a lot of stuff in our backyard. Dumb cat. There's a lot of trees down. There's a lot of damage. I'm afraid we're not going to have time to clean them up. I'm certainly not going to have enough time now to do everything that I wanted before we go into the hospital. So I just wanted to film a little video here. My folks just went to my dad's doctor's appointment to see if he has any cancer left. They have to go all the way to Lincoln, but we know it's okay to go to Lincoln. I don't know. It's just been one bummer after another, and I guess we should be thankful that it's warm out and nice and we don't have to worry about that aspect of it too much, but still, big bummer.
I just kind of wanted to mention that while we're still here at the beginning of the video. Also, there's lots of sounds in this room. It's a hospital room. Anyone who's spent time in a hospital knows they're really loud. I'm not going to denoise this at all. It's just what it is. I don't have my best microphone here. I have this one because it allows me to plug headphones in. And so, let's see. Okay, so that's that. The storm was really crazy. We were out of power. It was fun in some ways at first, like you would expect it would be, but then it grew really tiresome, and I was mainly really upset because I wanted to go and buy Assassin's Creed Shadows the day it came out. Well, the day it came out was the day after our electricity went off. And at that point still, I couldn't even we couldn't really leave our house because we were snowed in. I couldn't get anywhere to purchase the game, let alone play it obviously with no electricity. And so I didn't actually get the game until the following week. And I only got to play it once on my TLC TV that I bought myself earlier this year as a present to motivate me to get better as fast as I could and get home as soon as I can so that I can enjoy my TV and stuff. But anyway, I only got to play it for one day, and then the next day was the day that we were coming into the hospital. So that's kind of all that stuff. I think I'm not sure what order I want to do all of this stuff in, but I'll just start and kind of go through some different things that happened. So Friday, March 28th, was the day we were being admitted, and so we came into the hospital. I've talked about the hospital before. I've talked about it in all these videos in great detail about the different hospitals we go to, how great the people are that work there, all of that stuff. I've talked about all that stuff. So if you want to hear more about that stuff in detail, you can go check out Updates Volume 1 and 2. But the first thing we did when we got here was I had to set up all my stuff. And so I was, obviously for the first day, I was feeling just fine. I was feeling the way I have been this whole time, pretty much. Which, for those of you, if this is a new video for you, I've been very lucky over the last year and a half, almost, that I haven't been having very many bad reactions to really any of the chemos or the medications that I've been given for all the different things that comes with this treatment plan that I've been going through. We didn't know we were going to have to do the transplant until October of last year, and then we had a bunch of months waiting. But so the day finally arrived, and I think I have a video that I recorded. I'm not sure. I may insert stuff into this video as I'm talking, and I may include audio, I might not. So just bear with me. It depends how much effort I want to put into editing this video, because I will be editing it in the hospital. So it all depends how much effort I want to put into it. If I am not feeling good and I want to get the video out sooner, I might not put a bunch of stuff in here and save that for future videos. But I did try to document certain things as well as I could, but again, on my phone. So you might be seeing things cut into the video here throughout. I may just put pictures in over the video as I'm talking about stuff, but don't freak out. That's just, I'll do what I can, and I won't do what I don't feel like doing, if that makes sense.
So today is the day that we are going into the hospital for 100 days. We're taking off, leaving home. It's a beautiful day, I guess, except it's windy and crappy. And yeah. All right, we are here at the hospital, and we've got our room. This is the place I'm going to be spending 30 days in. Got all my stuff set up here. I got all the important things. I got my computer with my PlayStation, headphones. I got Godzilla because I'm going to be getting radiation and I want to stay strong. I got Winnie the Pooh because life sucks and it doesn't bother him. And I got the Dementor to remind myself not to get depressed. And I got plants because they're cool. That's all the important stuff. And I also have my mom here.
Hi, we're at the hospital.
Right, we are. And so, yeah, this is going to be my home for the next 30 days. Everything crazy starts next week, so there you go.
So we got here the first day. We were checked into our room, I think, in the afternoon. And my mom was planning to stay with me here in the hospital for that first day and then maybe go home for a few days. When I'm here in the hospital, I don't need to have someone staying with me the whole time. Obviously, there's the whole staff on the floor here. And I am assigned a nurse and a tech to be just my nurse and my tech. And I'm not their only patient. They can have, I think, up to 6 at most, but usually it's 3 or 4 patients for each nurse and tech. So I feel well cared for at all times here. I've never felt anything different than that. But we got here and we started setting up the room, and it was kind of fun. And I filmed a little video to post as a short on our channel, so you can go check those out. I've been trying to post shorts whenever I can. And part of that experience is being willing to record myself and take pictures and things when I'm not necessarily feeling the best. And so we've been working on that. I told my mom she can take a picture of me at absolutely any time, and that it would be totally fine. So, yeah, for the 5th time we got here, started setting everything up, and I had thought really hard about what to bring with me. And I knew for sure that I wanted to bring my computer that I'm recording this on, which is a nice little Lenovo box. It's called a Think Center. Really cool if you want to look it up. It's really great. It's something my friend Chris, who was on the channel with me here, is something he had bought for himself a while ago, and then he upgraded his equipment, and he sent it to me in the mail last year to help make recordings easier for us, for the channel, and so I'm really grateful that he was able to do that. So I brought that and a monitor. It's a pretty nice big monitor. I also brought my keyboard and my mouse, and I brought an HDMI cable and, all the stuff I need to make my computer work. And then I brought this microphone, and I was really debating about which microphone to bring, because I only have 2 USB microphones. One of them is this one, which this is a blue snowball. It disconnected there for a second, so check. Okay, I see it's still going, so that's good. Hopefully that's working. Actually, I should check this first. What am I in? I'm in 1. And that's all that really matters, so that's fine. Okay. Brought this microphone, this blue snowball mic. Or it's not snowball. I'm sorry, I misspoke. This is a blue Nessie. This is an older blue microphone. Everybody knows blue microphones for their blue Yeti microphones and their blue snowball microphones. But this is from a generation, I believe, before the snowball, called a Nessie. And I really do like the way it sounds. I'm obviously speaking pretty far away from it right now, and you're probably picking up a lot of the room, but if I wanted to, I could get really close like this, and we could be like, having a radio show, which has been really fun the last few days since my throat started to hurt. My voice has dropped in frequency, so I can now go really low and control my voice in ways that I wouldn't maybe be able to do. So, without trying to hurt myself, I've been trying to do Peruvian throat singing, well, whatever, I'm not going to waste the time in this video to show you, because I clearly haven't mastered it yet. But I'm also afraid if I'm doing something stupid like that, all of a sudden it'll just go bloop, and my voice will be gone. But I've got this. This is the one mic I brought, so I committed to using this one. And the reason I brought this one was because it has, right here on the back, it has a headphone output on it, which means I can monitor myself right now, which is what I'm doing. I do have a nicer quality, in my opinion, USB microphone. I don't even know what it is. I think it's kind of a cheap brand, but it's really nice and isolating sounding, and it would have been good for this, but there's too much of a delay when I turn monitoring on my computer unless I'm going directly out of the microphone. So that's why I'm using the blue. And then I also brought my Aukey webcam, which I've been using on my channel here forever, to record myself. And which, boy, this shot looks really blue with my blue shirt, blue walls, blue everything behind me. I was trying to get the well, anyway, it doesn't matter. But so yeah, got all my computer stuff, and you can't see this, but right behind me over here, behind behind you guys actually, behind the camera, is my PS5. So I brought my PS5, and I did play a little bit of Assassin's Creed, but I was having trouble because one of my big purchases before coming to the hospital, strictly for this, was this pair of Turtle Beach Stealth 600s. I did a bunch of research. I love my very old Turtle Beach P12 headphones from like 15 years ago. I love these headphones. They're my favorite headphones I've ever heard in my life. And I used to work at a recording studio, and I've heard a lot of very professional sounding headphones that, in my opinion, don't sound as good as these do. But I bought these, and I've never used wireless headphones really before to any big extent. And I was having a lot of trouble setting up my PlayStation, getting the internet connected to my PlayStation, and then getting the wireless headphones to plug into it. And so that was kind of a big bummer, and all kind of headaches that I worked through on the first day while we were here to get stuff set up. Then, for other stuff that I brought to just kind of tidy up the room, I brought these two little, I've had them in a lot of my videos on the channel here, these two sort of like, what are these kind of plants called, Mom? Succulents?
Yeah.
Succulents. Fake succulent plants. I've had them in the background a lot of my videos. I brought a wireless speaker that I have a connector on it that can go plug directly into my phone, so that if we were going to watch something on a device, or we were going to need a speaker of some kind, I could plug that in and it would work and it'd be great. One of the other great things I brought that everybody comments on when they come into my room all the time is Alexa, play Primal Waters.
Sure. Here's a station based on at the well. In a time of flooding waters. 3 paraphrases of a
I don't even know what she's going to play.
1 and 2 pianos. 2 following the primal.
Alexa, stop. Whatever. But I have my Alexa back here. You can see it right here. It's this little black box. And I put it in, I have this cage here. There's one just like it over there, right behind the computer monitor where the nurses work. And I put my Alexa there. And it took me a while to figure it out, but I got it connected to the Wi-Fi here at the hospital. And it has been probably the most important thing that I brought with me, other than my phone. We use it all the time. I use it when I'm sleeping at night to just play like sort of soothing acoustic guitar and piano instrumental music. And I also just listen to, we've been listening to like 50s and 60s music. If I'm here by myself, I can put on any album I want and just listen to parts of it, when I'm sleeping or whatever. And that's been really great. I also brought with me a light that I've had in all my videos recently here on the channel, a Govee light that my aunt bought for me for Christmas this year. It's about 1.5 yards long, maybe almost 2 yards. I think it's about 1.5 yards. And I can't reach it. It's out of frame. I can't reach it. And I'm not going to get up and reach it. It's not that important. But I have it in a lot of my videos with like these bright colors behind me and stuff. And that has been really great. I put it on this table here. And then at night when it starts to get dark, we put on some like flashing crazy like disco lights. You can make the light do anything basically. And so I put it on all these different fun, colorful lights like blues and purples and reds and stuff. And I set it out in the window. And so I think if anybody happens to look at the hospital up here, they'll know there's a cool person up in this room, And that's been really fun to have. And if I get tired of doing that, I might put it somewhere else in the room and then have it just be like a cool ambient type of light somewhere. I could put it back here in this, there we go, in that corner there, and just have it like shine light. I wish I could, there's a really interesting like alcove area here. You guys can't see behind the camera. I wish I could put it up there and just like blast the colors up there and just have it like fill this whole space with light. But there's no way I can do that without jury rigging some crazy thing, and I don't care about enough to do that. I also brought off to the side, maybe I'll take a picture and try to put it in the video here, but I brought my, Mom, can you bring me a couple things?
No.
Can you bring me the religious stuff?
Okay.
Bring me the cross first, and the Padre Pio. So I brought this cross. We don't talk about religion on the channel very much, but I am a practicing Catholic. So I brought this cross. It's just a nice, very simple cross. And then I had brought my special handmade rosary that when I was confirmed when I was younger, there was an older gentleman who lived in the town that I'm from, the small town called Prague, and he would make rosaries for all of the children. Maybe it was First Communion? No, I think it was Confirmation. No, it was First Communion. It was First Holy Communion. But I brought my special rosary anyway, wrapped it around here. That's been really nice. Bring me the cards then, too. And then I also brought this, which I've showed off in other videos in the past, and I always have behind me. This is my prayer to Padre Pio. And I don't really know that much about Padre Pio. However, the priest from my parish in in Prague, he went on a retreat last year after we had found out I had cancer. And he went to Mexico, and he visited a church that Padre Pio ran there. And every priest that goes there gets 2 cards that were touched by the gloves of Padre Pio. And so he brought me those and gave them to me. He brought me one of them. He got 2 of them, and he gave one of those to me. And so I put it in that case, and it's been in the background of all my videos here on the channel forever. And then my dad came and visited us a couple days ago, and he brought me these 2 cards that he got through. When I was little, we would have summer CCD in the town that I'm from, and these sisters would come, these nuns would come, and they would do summer CCD, and they would always sell stuff like this. Not sell them, not with money. You got questions right during the CCD and whatever. It doesn't matter. But my dad got me 2 cards like this, so whatever. I don't need to spend much time talking about that. It's been nice to have that, though. If you're not a religious person, I imagine it's hard to understand, but if you are religious in any religion, you know that it's very nice to have something that you can, it's nice to think that there is actually a reason for everything. One other last cool thing about that, though, is that from here, from my window, I can look out. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take a risk here, and hopefully this doesn't unplug my camera. But I'm going to take a risk and show you guys what's behind me. Oh, no, I don't have the auto. Okay, oh, hold on. Oh, this is going to just wreck everything so bad. So there's the city of Omaha out here. And that building, you can't really see it that easy, but it's right here. That one, it's like kind of sticking out. Those are the 2 spires from the cathedral here in Omaha. In Omaha, we have a very beautiful, very old cathedral. Hi. I was at 7, so I think I can just do this again. Yeah. Okay, hopefully that worked. Hold on, I think I'll go back here. Okay, it should be back to fine. But anyway, that is the cathedral. And I've worked there, actually, when I worked at the recording studio here in Omaha. I worked at the cathedral every year doing a special summer show. We would record the Omaha Symphony and the Omaha Symphonic Chorus, do their special Christmas show there. And I've gone to Mass there several times, and it's really cool. But if anyone's interested in that, you can look them up. It's called St. Cecilia's Cathedral in Omaha, Nebraska. And I believe for a while it was one of the 3 biggest cathedrals in the United States. It was a pretty early one built here, back when we were a younger country. So that's all the religious stuff. I've got... Oh, hold on, I want to... yeah, there we go. I want to have my balloon in there. This is a balloon my niece, nephew, and my sister sent to me. It says happy birthday on there. But, yeah. So the only other things that I brought, other than clothes and just the standard stuff you would expect to bring, was I brought 3 things specifically, and because I didn't have a ton of room to bring stuff with, because I was bringing all my computer junk. But I brought with me, and this has all been in videos here on the channel, I brought with me my Godzilla, because I was going to, well, what I've been telling all the nurses is I brought Godzilla to show that good things can come from radiation, which is silly, but because, in the original movie, Godzilla was a bad guy, but then he became really cheesy 70s Godzilla, like this guy, and, but I love Godzilla. It's one of my favorite properties, and I brought this guy for the radiation aspect of it. I brought Winnie the Pooh, because I've always had a soft spot for Winnie the Pooh. We watched it a lot growing up. I love the theme song, but not the one you're thinking of. Not Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh. Not that one. I'm talking about the far superior, gotta get up, gotta get going, you wanna see a friend of mine. right? You know that one. He's round and he's fuzzy, we love him because he's just Pooh Bear, Winnie the Pooh Bear. Wherever you go, oh, won't you take me please? Pooh Bear, I gotta be there. But anyway, he's there to remind me to just be aloof through all this and not really try to understand what's going on at all. Think on a surface level. And then the last thing I brought with me is my very cool Dementor statue, which I haven't been able to have out in any of my videos for the last several years because my nephew, who's going through his own Harry Potter journey slowly, did not know what these guys were, and I didn't want to spoil it for him by having this sweet statue out. But, yeah, so this is my Dementor, and I really like this, and this is to represent the idea that you shouldn't let depression get the best of you. Which anyone that watches this channel knows I'm not a very depressed person in general. So yeah, okay. So that's all the stuff that I brought. I think, did I forget anything, Mom?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, so that's that. And so this is the part of the video that I was really debating about how to tackle. Because it's like, do I want to get into super minutiae stuff, or do I want to just kind of tell you what's gone on since we got here? So currently today is April 14th. I'm sorry, April 13th. So that means we've been here since March 28th. So that's, what, 13 days plus 3 days in March? So that's 16 days. We've been here for 16 days, which is crazy to think that we've been here that long. It doesn't feel like I've been here that long. But first day here was easy. Second day, they took me to do... Oh, I don't think I did talk about that at all. Okay, let's take a second to focus on the radiation then. Because I don't think I mentioned this in the previous video, and I did mention it real quick, and I said I'll talk about it in the next video. So the week before we came into the hospital, our power came on Tuesday. It actually came on while we were gone. We were here in Omaha to do the last few little things we needed to do before we came in to stay that Friday. So we were here on Tuesday, and we met with a doctor. Did we go to the Village Point, Mom, to the radiation thing on Monday, and then on Tuesday was the day we signed everything with my doctor?
Yes.
Okay. So on Monday of that week then, sorry, I got to backtrack one day. On Monday of that week, we went to, there's 3 hospitals in town we go to. The Bellevue location for UNMC, the main campus location, everyone just calls it main campus, which is sort of in the downtown area of Omaha. And then much closer to our house, but still in the city and very far away from where we live, there's a Village Point area, it's a Village Point Mall, one of the bigger malls in Omaha. And we went there to meet with a radiologist to do some preliminary tests, because with my transplant, there's several things that go into the whole process of the transplant, but one of the things was you come into the hospital, you stay for a week beforehand, and they basically give you as much nasty stuff as they can to lower your immune system down as much as humanly possible, so that when they do the transplant and they give you another person's stem cells from their blood, from their bone, in their blood, they pump that into you, and you're not supposed to have any of your own at that point, and then basically their cells are the ones that start replicating in your body. And as long as your body accepts them and doesn't reject them too badly, as I slowly get better and better and better and better, the good cells will take over and they will start to destroy the cancer cells. What my cancer was doing was my cells in my body were creating too many cells, and they weren't being checked by anything, and that's what the cancer was. It was an abundance of white blood cells, I think, an abundance of, I think white blood cells, but some part of the system. Some part of the bone marrow, which the bone marrow is made up of 3 things: red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Yeah, platelets. I should know that already. And platelets. And so anyway, on that Monday, the day before we got our power back, we had to come into Omaha to meet with a radiologist, and she was very wonderful. She was explaining to us that my doctor had said that he had basically checked a box that my spleen was enlarged, which was something we did not know at the time. So we found out from this other doctor that my spleen was enlarged, and that he wanted them to do a special type of radiation that would allow them to focus more radiation on just my spleen. And that required her and her team to do a lot of calculations and prep work. And they only had a week to do it in before I got here and we were going to start radiation. And so what we ended up doing was going in on that Monday, and we talked to her. She kind of explained the process. And they took me into this other room. And in this room, they had what looked like sort of a CAT scan or PET scan machine. It was like a sort of a cylinder that they lay you down on a table, make you comfortable, and then they slide you into the it's like tube thing. And it wasn't a full body tube or anything like that. It was about half your body. And luckily those things don't bother me that much because I've gotten scanned with lots of stuff. Thanks, Mom. And what they did was really crazy, but a majority of it was to test whether or not it would work for them to do these sort of special radiation. I was going to be doing two types of radiation: this special one that they were going to create just for me and my body, and then the regular TBR, which is total body radiation, that everybody that gets this kind of transplant gets. And so it was going to be a pretty arduous process, and it was going to be very challenging. And so when they were testing me, what they would do is I had no shirt on, and I laid down on this table, and they basically used this really interesting material. It was kind of like an air mattress, right? So they had this air mattress that was sort of halfway inflated, and I sat on it, and I was just like this, and I had to sit with my arms tied up against my body, and my legs and everything straight, and she tied my feet together so they wouldn't like tilt apart like this, so they would be straight up together. And then they put me in the machine, and they did a bunch of scans, and they came out, and then they marked my body. And I still have, I think, some of the markings here. I might have to blur this because that's just disgusting. But anyway, yeah. This is weeks later now. Not weeks later, but weeks later since they put those stupid marks there. But I had like 2 here going up the sides, more sort of towards the sides. And that was for them to indicate where to aim the radiation and stuff, which I'm not going to get too deep into that stuff. But then they did these other tests, which was really crazy. So, so to finish about the bed. So you lay on this bed, and it's kind of like half inflated. And then what they do is they suck the air out of it, and they push it up against you. I had another nurse come in to help the main lady who was helping me. And they push it up against you, and it basically forms like a cone or like a shape around your body. And then what they do is they take that, and they make it as hard as they can, and they take that to the hospital here, when I was going to do my radiation, and I was going to lay in it. And it's supposed to like allow you to comfortably relax while staying in the exact position. So that's what they do for your body, but for your head, they do something else. They actually take and they make this. Which hopefully you can see that is. Here's my nose. Here's my lips. Chin with facial hair at the time. But they make this like creepy looking mask that they fit over your head like this. There we go. There, I'm in my nose. It's in my nose hole like this. And then what they do is you lay like this, and they have something underneath your head, sort of in the space between the table itself, which is a metal table, and the back of your head. It's like a clear plastic tiny pillow that's sort of shaped to fit around your neck. And then they bolt this to the table, and it is so tight. And so how they made this was she took this like this, and it was just a screen, like a screen of paper, white paper, right here. And she took it, and she said, "Are you ready?" And I said, "I guess." And she said, "Okay." And so she lifted up like this above my head, and it was just like basically think of like a white sheet of paper right here. And she just pushed it over like this until it was just like absolutely suffocating me. And she pushed so hard, and this was really choking me really badly. And she was like, "Oh, I'll bet that's pretty tight on your neck, huh?" Because I'm a fatty. And so she reached her hands over, and this all stretched out into this like mesh pattern you see here, and it was soft, and it was hot, and they make this mask, and then what it does is it forms to your face, and then they bring this and that and the body like cone thing they make for you to the hospital when you're doing your radiation, and then they basically bolt you to the table so you can't move. So for me, she put that on my face, then she took it off, let it dry, put it back on my face, and then they did measurements and tests on me for about an hour and a half. The entire time I was bolted to the table and I could not move. And it was, I can't imagine, I can't imagine most people could do that. It was a weird experience. It was not comfortable at all. And then they came in and she said, "I am so sorry, we don't normally have to do this, but we have to turn you around and do it again." Because they couldn't get all the measurements that they needed from me going in head first. They had to put me in feet first. So I got up, she flipped around the casket thing I was in, and then I laid it again. She bolted my head to the table again, and then they put me back in there for, I would say, maybe about another 45 minutes. So all total, I would think I was bolted to the table for about 2 hours and 15 minutes. And it was not a fun time. And what was I like after that, Mom?
Came out and said, "Let's go."
Yeah.
Let's go.
Exactly. So that was really freaky, to be honest, and I was scared that during the radiation, that if the radiation process itself was going to take like an hour, I was like, well, at least I know I can stand it because I've just been in it for 2 hours and 15 minutes. But I knew I was doing 2 different types of radiations, and I didn't know what the other one was yet, so that was really crazy. And that was the radiation stuff. So fast forward now back to my second day in the hospital here. So got everything set up the first day. The second day, the main thing we did was sometime during the day, the radiation people came, and the radiation people all wear all red scrubs, which is kind of fun because you don't see that around here too much. But the radiation people came and they took me to do more tests because there was something that was wrong and they couldn't figure out how to make the machine work. So they had me, I went down there, they brought out the mask, they brought out the cocoon thing. That's what I should have been calling it the whole time, cocoon thing. They brought that out and they laid it on the table, and I had to get in there, lay down. They bolted my head to the table and they started kind of, now the machine that they have at this place at UNMC main campus, actually I took a picture of it. So I took a picture of it on this day that I'm talking about right now. So I'll put that in the video here as long as I can. But it's basically like an arm that like rotates around the body 360 degrees, like this. This is the body. It like rotates around like this to shoot radiation at it. And so I laid there for about probably 45 minutes, and they were not having any luck with whatever was wrong. And so I decided, okay, well, whatever, this is just what it is. They came in and said, okay, we're having a little trouble trying to figure everything out. We're going to let you take the mask off and you can sit up if you want. So I just sat up and I was sitting on this metal table in my little cocoon thing. And after about 15 minutes, they came in and said, we're still not able to get it to work, and our computer just shut off. So we're going to have to restart everything so you can get out of the cocoon thing and you can just go sit in a chair off to the side of the room. And I was like, okay. So I went and sat in a chair, and that's when I took those photos. And what ended up happening was I could hear them talking in the room. The lady who was the radiologist that we talked to was on the phone with the manufacturers of the machine. And what ended up happening was they could not figure out how to do what would have been required for me to have this special radiation where they focus on my spleen because I was too tall. Which is kind of crazy to think. I'm only 6'1". I'm not some I'm not some giant, So, but I was thinking maybe it was because no one explained it to me other than that, to just say you were too tall for the machine, you can't do the correct calculations. So what I was thinking though is that the spleen's kind of halfway through the body, and maybe in order for them to do it, they said they would have had to have stuck me in head first for a while, got out, got around, and then go in feet first. again, just like we did it during the testing. And they said, finally, they were like, we don't think we can get this to work. So we're going to call it. We'll try a little bit more on our end, but you don't have to do anything. Don't worry about it. Tomorrow, when your radiation starts, we'll just do the regular total body radiation like everybody else gets. Which, as I said, I was going to be getting as well anyway. So, that day was also, so that would have been Saturday. I think they came and got me on Sunday, I believe. It doesn't really matter. But basically, I had a week of really intense stuff leading up to the transplant. And the first day of that was a full day of this new chemo that I was getting that's a pretty hardcore one called ATG. And I don't know what that stands for. You can look it up if you want. And so it's an 8-hour one. It runs over the course of 8 hours. And I was hooked up to it for the first time, I believe, on Sunday. And so on Sunday, they hooked me up to this ATG. And it was going fine. I felt maybe a little stomach woozy, but not too bad. And again, I was still perfectly, I won't say perfectly, but I was still very healthy state because we hadn't really done anything yet. But other than just the radiation testing and whatnot on Saturday. So I got this ATG hooked up, and we went through most of the day. They hooked it up, I believe, at 11:30, and it was supposed to be done at like 8 or 7:30. But halfway through the process, if it's going well, they can boost the amount that they're giving you, and it would be done like up to 2 hours early. And so they did that because I was reacting totally fine to it. And so they upped the dosage that they were giving me to increase the amount, basically. And that night was a night that Cody and I were having a premiere for our Beatles video for Revolver. And if you were there for that and you saw it, thank you for being there. There weren't very many people in the chat, but there were enough people that we were having fun. I started the premiere at the video is I think like 3 hours and 5 minutes or something long. Great video, great album. And about 9:30, with about a half hour left in the video to go, I just started to not feel very good. So I went and laid down in bed, and I started to just shake. My whole body was shaking, and I was very cold, so I was having like shiver shakes. And it was very strange. And so I called my nurse. She came in. She was like, okay, well, we'll keep a watch on you. We'll keep watching on you. There's nothing we can do right now. You just got to kind of ride it out. And so I had her put a bunch of blankets on me, like all the blankets I had. And she turned the heat up in the room, I think 2 degrees. And to 70, I believe. And it felt to me like it lasted all night. Like I was just dying, basically, for like all night long. But after a while, it kind of went away and I fell asleep. But I was still getting super hot, super cold. And the nurse came in and she said, I'm going to do vitals, okay? And I was like, all right, that's fine. I said, what time is it? And she said, it's 12 o'clock. And I was like, what? I thought I had been in agony all night long, but really it had only lasted about 2 hours or so, maybe an hour and a half. And so she said that she had come in to check on me multiple times, and I looked like I was asleep. And so she just left me alone. So I think what might have happened was, I'm not sure how long I had the bad shakes for, but it felt like forever, but it was really only a shorter time, and then I just must have fallen asleep. But then what happened over basically the rest of the night was, I kept getting really hot and having shivers and stuff, and the nurses and everyone kept saying, it just sure seems like you have a fever, but you don't have a fever, and they kept checking me like every 30 minutes. They kept doing vitals, which for those of you who are not hospital people, when they say vitals, they check your blood pressure on your arm with the cuff, they wrap your finger with these things, cuff, and this annoying jerk right here, and then the cuff here, and then they take your temperature. And so I kept asking her to take my temperature, and she kept agreeing with me, we should be taking your temperature, and I never had a fever. I never had a fever. My blood pressure was really high, so they gave me medicine for high blood pressure, and then after a while I had to go to the restroom. And so I had the nurse kind of help me. She said, sit up slowly. So I sat up, and she took my blood pressure, and it went down. It was nice. She was like, oh, that's much better. So she said, but before you go to the restroom, and which, by the way, there's a bathroom here. It's that room right there. So thank goodness we have our own bathroom in our rooms. She said, before you go into the restroom, though, I'm going to have you just stand up, and we'll take your blood pressure one more time. So I stood up, and she took my blood pressure, and my blood pressure had, like, plummeted. It was, like, way lower than it was supposed to be. So it had gone from being too high to too low just from me, like, standing up. So they're like, oh, boy, sit back down. So I sat back down, and they actually gave me low blood pressure medication. So I had, like, high blood pressure medication and low blood pressure medication within 2 hours of each other, which I think is kind of weird. But finally, at that point, they checked my temperature, and they're like, yes, finally, you have a fever. And we were all like, yay, it's a concrete thing that they know how to deal with. So what did they do? They gave me 2 Tylenol. So everyone out there, you got a fever, take 2 Tylenol. And that's what they'll do for you at the most professional, wonderful, most expensive hospitals in the world. Give you 2 Tylenol. So they did that, and honestly, I felt better right away. My temperature went away, my blood pressure stabilized and wasn't moving up and down so much, and then I was able to fall into a deep sleep for the last few hours of, like, nighttime. So that was what we think was my first reaction to the ATG chemo. So it took place about 5-ish hours after it was done. So we were like, okay, that's interesting to know. Because the following day, I was going to be starting radiation, and I also had another 8-hour dose of the ATG. So I was afraid, I didn't know what the radiation was going to be like. So, but I think the easiest way to do this is to talk about the ATG stuff first, and then I'll go backtrack a second, talk about the radiation. So that day, the day after my first reaction, I had ATG again. So it was hooked up at the same time around 11:30, and this time they were going to just keep it at the low rate the entire time without boosting it up at all. And so it was going to go the full 8 hours. So it was done around 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I felt totally fine. However, the following morning, I got back from radiation, my second day of radiation, and I had the same reaction, but to a lesser degree. I started shaking, I was super cold, and then I would get hot, and I was having shivers and just total body shakes from my feet, from the tips of my toes all the way up to the top of my head. And it was very uncomfortable, but it only lasted about a half hour. At that point, then, I was able to go to sleep, and we checked my blood pressure, we checked my temperature, and my blood pressure did fluctuate a little bit, but not to the degree that it did the day before, and it wasn't that bad. Wasn't that bad comparatively, but it was much later. It was almost like 12 hours after the medication was done. And so that was really confusing to everybody. They were saying that shouldn't happen. If you're going to have a reaction to a chemo, it should be while you're getting it or like 2 weeks later, not 12 hours later. So that was kind of strange. And the whole time it was happening, both times, both of my nurses kept asking me, do you feel anxious? And that's such an interesting question for someone to ask you when you're in a hospital. Do you feel anxious? Yes, just being here makes you feel anxious. But I think most people who know me know that I'm not an anxiety-filled person. I'm not like that. I don't have, that's not one of the things that bothers me mentally, And I can block stuff out, not think about it, whatever, just think about something else, you focus on your breathing, whatever, all the different techniques. And they were thinking it might have been an anxiety attack type thing. And so the second day, they gave me some medication that was sort of to just kind of calm a person down. It wasn't anything I'd ever heard of before. And I don't know if it helped or not, but it was like much less intense. So maybe my body, whatever it was reacting to, was just reacting to it again, but to a lesser extent because it was more used to it, I guess. I'm not too sure. Then I had one more day of that. I had a day off from that. And then on, I believe the night before, I actually had my transplants, which was on Friday, April 4th. At 9 p.m. on Thursday, April 3rd, I got another 8-hour dose of the ATG, and it ran overnight. And I'm happy to say that time I didn't really experience anything. Though my mom was here that day, of the transplant, and she thought that I was sitting here feeling very cold. And I do remember at certain points having her put 2 blankets on my shoulders because my shoulders were so cold. And if you know me at all, you know I rarely get cold. So I think maybe she's right, and I did have a bit of a reaction to it, whatever it was again, probably the ATG, but it wasn't near as bad, and it didn't last that long, so we didn't really bring it up or complain too much about that, but we were just kind of monitoring, taking my temperature and whatnot. And I never did get a temperature that day. I never had a fever that day. Okay, so now I want to backtrack and talk about the radiation, because the radiation people, it turns out, were really awesome. And so they'd done all this testing to me and all this stuff, and I was kind of intimidated by them. And when they came up to get me, it was very fun, because they send a person in with a wheelchair who doesn't work. They just have someone that's sort of employed by the hospital. Usually I find it's college students, because this hospital is also a university, the University of Nebraska Medical Center. The first day, and the days don't really matter too much. We've got everything calculated, and we've got all the days like kept on a calendar, but the first day of radiation, they came at 8 o'clock in the morning to get me. So I knew with my schedule that I was going to have radiation at 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. every day for 3 days in a row. And then I would have 1 day off from radiation. No, it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then Friday was the day of the transplant. So it was the 3 days leading up to transplant. So I'd have radiation on 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. each day for 3 days in a row. And I was worried about it because I didn't know what to expect. And I didn't know if they were going to be using this guy. I didn't know, what they were going to be, what the process was going to be. And so they took me. They send a person in a wheelchair whose job is to just, haul people around the hospital. They took me in a wheelchair down to the floor, which is really easy because I'm on the 7th floor of the hospital right now, and the radiation department's on the 1st floor, and they have a special elevator that connects right from the area we're in right here to the radiation, so you don't have to go through the hospital at all. So this lady came, took me down there, set me in this little alcove next to this booth where a nurse's station, and they give you this, push this button in your hand and say, if you have any trouble, push this button. I'm like, okay. And so I didn't know this until right this very second, not this second, but the second I'm talking about here, that I get nauseous in wheelchair when someone's pushing me around in a wheelchair. So my first experience with the radiation was feeling kind of sick, being taken down there on a wheelchair, which was really silly. So whatever. So I'm sitting down there waiting, and the security guard walks by, and it's one of those situations where I'm obviously a patient, right? Everybody who's walking around is someone who works for the hospital, and it's just an awkward thing. You're sitting there, and someone walks by, and you're like, oh, you can just have your head down if you want, and that's generally what I do, but sometimes you look up because you're just like, oh, is this the person coming to get me? And you look up right as that person happens to look at you, and you make eye contact, and you do the little, or you do, or no one says anything, or you don't acknowledge it. It's very funny. It's absolutely silly and ridiculous. But the security guard walked by, and I was like, I just did the whole and he went, and walked along. And they came and got me, and they said, Patrick, since this is your radiation and it's your first one, you can pick whatever you want to listen to. What do you want to listen to? So they took me into the same room that I was in before, and the chair that I was sitting in when I took those pictures earlier was against a wall. And so now, where that chair was, there was a gurney, basically. And I just had to lay on the gurney. There was the mask wasn't there, and there was no cocoon for me. I think they just used the cocoon on someone else or threw it away. I don't know. It's too big of an annoying thing to bring up here. So he's like, what do you want to listen to? And I said, okay, well, I thought back to one of the first times I've ever gotten a big scan. I got a CT scan, I believe, on my arm when I tore my bicep a few years ago. And they put me in the machine, and they just put on pop music. And one of the first songs that played was a song that's very important and special to me, and it was a-ha's Take On Me. And so I thought, oh, well, let's listen to 80s pop music. So he said, 80s pop? Okay. So there was a guy who's kind of in charge of it all, and he was awesome, very fun dude, very boisterous, but not like overly macho or anything like that. So I was getting along with him really well. And there were two girls that were helping him. And so basically what I did was I would lay on this table, and they had the same thing that they had pushed up against my neck, a clear sort of plastic ramp-looking thing that they shove up against your head, and then the point is so you can like lay your head back like this, and it's supposed to be sort of contoured to the neck and to the head. And they have different sizes, and they just try which one works best on you. So they figured out which one worked best for me, and I laid down, and then they have two towels sitting there where you just kind of like rest your arms on it like this. So you're laying like this, and then they gave me this really cool little like donut thing you hold on to like this. It's just a little ring that's about this big, and you just hold on to it like this, because some people's arms aren't probably like mine. I have long forearms, and I can attach I can do this and have my arms resting at my side, but it might be kind of hard and awkward to do that for however long. I didn't know how long it was going to take. And so you'd hold on to this ring like this. You just have your arms up like this, and then they put a triangle-shaped pillow underneath your legs. So you bend your knees, you put them down, they put a triangle-shaped pillow underneath your knees, and they can rotate it depending on what kind of angle they want. It's actually the exact same type of thing we have for our tablets. Like a tablet pillow thing, a My Pillow tablet thing, or whatever they call them. And then they want your feet up like this, so you put them up against sort of like a board. And then what they do is they kind of strap these big heavy blocks to the side of they don't strap it to your head, they strap it to the table, and they tape it there actually. So nothing's attached to you. But they have lasers set up that calculates the exact distance from the radiation machine to you. And basically I'm just on a gurney against a wall, and then they do these measurements that just take a minute or so. And then what they do is the first time you go through radiation, they leave these sensors on your body, one on my knee, one on my stomach, one by my neck, and then one on my foot. And what it's supposed to do is show that you're basically getting the same amount of radiation across your entire body. And so what I learned on subsequent visits, though, was that these blocks they're putting there, it's something that they call solid water. Or is that what I said it was called, Mom? Solid water?
Yes, I believe.
Or was it like hard water or something like that? I think it was solid water he called it. Because he said whenever we say that, most people are like, oh, you mean ice? And I was like, oh, I didn't even think of it like that. But he said basically it's something that's the consistency. It's a specific consistency to, because if you think about blasting radiation at something, like if say my PlayStation controller here was having radiation blasted at it from below, you would be getting more radiation here. Like if the radiation is coming this way and it's going over this part would be exposed to twice as much radiation, because it would be exposed to radiation up to this point, and then when this gets exposed to radiation, this is still being exposed to radiation. So what they do is they take and they put a block that basically fits right in this area right here, that's the same density as a human body, and then what it does is it evens out the amount of radiation that's getting blasted into your body across your entire body. So they put one of those. Does that make sense? I know I haven't explained that to you before because it's probably not that interesting. But so what they do is they put a block by my head here, and then they put a block by my knees, because my knees were in together, and then they put a block by your feet. And it's supposed to make it evenly across you. So then they turned on the music. It was 80s pop music, and I can't remember any of the songs that played, but they were all very disappointing. And the thing that was the best part of all of it was it's 12 minutes, and then they flip you around. You stay exactly in position. It's 12 minutes. They flip you around. They move the blocks to the other side. Excuse me. And then they do another 12 minutes. So they only cook you for 24 minutes total, 12 on one side, 12 on the other. So not very long at all. And I was so scared that it was going to be like hours, and hours, and it wasn't. It wasn't that bad. It actually, of all the things we've done so far, the radiation was probably the easiest thing to actually go do. So that was my first experience with it, and they had the like radiation testers or monitors on my foot, knee, stomach, and neck to test how much radiation was actually getting through to my body. And they made a little adjustments for that then for the afternoon one. So it got back up here, and that was when I was feeling sick from the ATG and had my second episode of that. But in the afternoon, we had to get over that real fast because in the afternoon I had radiation again at 3 o'clock. So they took me down there again, and this time I was ready. And I said, oh, the other thing that happened was when they spun the gurney around, they like backed up and like spun it around like it was a roller coaster ride, and it made me very sick. And then I got even sicker on the way up, being taken back to my room on the wheelchair. And I was just holding my head like this, and I was like, oh, you know, like breathing super heavy, and I was like, oh, this is not good. And so the second time we went, I was ready, and I told the lady with the wheelchair, I said, let's go a little slower. And she said, fine. It was a different person. I said, I got sick on the way down in the morning, and she said, oh, it's totally understandable. And so the second time, he said, what kind of music do you want to listen to? And I said, well, I've had a rough day, so I want to do chill, just some chill music. He said, okay. So they typed in chill music, and it brought up some like chill beats, and it was the most boring, terrible, generic music ever, and it was so disappointing. I'm not even going to talk about it anymore because it was terrible. But I like when they have music going on during things like this, because if you're listening to if it's 12 minutes aside, you know, that's like, if it's songs from the 80s, that's like 3 80s singles, right? If it's songs from the 50s, you could listen to like 5 songs in 12 minutes. But you know what I mean. You can use the songs as like a way to kind of measure time. And so it was much easier the second time. I knew what to do. I knew I was comfortable with the process. I was able to adjust the towels that you put under your arms to have them rest on something myself. I knew what we were doing, so I could help get everything in position and everything. It was very easy. And then when they spun me around, I said, I got sick last time. He said, oh, you should have said something. I said, well, that's all right. It didn't matter. I said, spin me slower and let me lift my head up. So when they were spinning me around the second time, I just lifted my head up like this, and I was able to see. And then they spun me slowly, and they spun me, rather than spinning me around, they spun me like a turning point with my head. So my head wasn't actually moving too much. They used my head as the like point to. So anyway, hopefully that makes sense. But it worked, and I didn't get sick at all, and it was totally fine. Got back to the room, everything was great. So the next day, then I had 2 more days of that. So the fun thing that happened then was the next day I went down there, and I was sitting there, and I had the same clothes on I did the day before. And they took me down there, and I was sitting there, and it was like the same time, because it was right around 8 o'clock. And the same security guard walked by, and he like looked at me, and we nodded like this, and he was like, did a double take, and he's like, how long have you been there? And I said, I've been here for over 24 hours, sir. Can you get me out of here? And he's like, you have not been sitting there all day. And I was like, no, they just brought me down. He's like, I walked through these hallways all day. And he's like, I saw you yesterday. You were wearing those same clothes. He's like, I know, I would have seen you. He's like, I thought you were a ghost. I thought you were a ghost that was haunting the hospital. I was like, I bet I wouldn't be the first ghost. So we were joking around, and it was very funny. And stuff like that, it's so silly, but something like that can just make your whole day when you're in a hospital. You know, he wouldn't have to say anything, you know, but he noticed it, and we had a fun little moment, and we were laughing, and laughter's the best medicine ever. They always say it in everything. It's so cliche. But it's true. And so that lifted my spirits. And so when they wheeled me in there, they were like, what do you want to listen to? And I said, you know what I want to listen to? I want to listen to Metallica. And they were all like, yes, we got a good guy. We got a good one here. So they put on Metallica. And I was trying very specifically to remember the songs. So they put Metallica on from the moment they wheeled me into the room. Like even before that, when you're standing there and you have to tell them your name and your birth date to confirm you're the right person. They put it on right away. And of course, you know the song that started, right? Enter Sandman, right? So Enter Sandman started. They wheeled me in. You got to get out of the wheelchair, take your shoes off, blah, blah. Take your mask off, blah, blah. Sit down. It takes them the whole process itself does take like an hour. They're only actually frying you for 24 minutes. But the whole process does take an hour. So over the hour, I heard, in this order, I believe in this order, Enter Sandman, Master of Puppets. And I joked around with them before. I was like, if Master of Puppets starts at the beginning of one of these, we'll be well over halfway done with the 12 minutes of radiation by the time that song's over. And the guy was like, that's a good point. We should just listen to long songs. I said, well, if they play anything that Metallica's recorded in the last 25 years, it's going to be a long song because they just try to fit. They haven't made a song under 7 minutes in a long time. So, but anyway, they played Enter Sandman, Master of Puppets, Wherever I May Roam. or no, before Wherever I May Roam was Nothing Else Matters, then Wherever I May Roam, then One, then I always get these two mixed up. The one that's do 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 do, the bass one. For Whom the Bell Tolls. I think it's For Whom the Bell Tolls. I get that one and Ride the Lightning, the song, mixed up. But it's the one that starts with the bass part, Cliff's bass part. Yeah. So that, and then the last song I think I heard was. It wasn't Sad But True. Oh man, I was specifically trying to remember for you guys. Maybe that was the last one. I wasn't surprised by anything they played, but I was kind of surprised. 72, not 72 Seasons, the song, but what's the song from? That one. Lux Eterna wasn't played, and I was also surprised Sad But True wasn't played, and also one of my favorite Metallica songs, Unforgiven, which everyone scoffs at. But that one wasn't played. So we had a lot of fun. Nothing to report then. We went back down again we were talking about music a little bit while we were doing that. They found out I had a YouTube channel, all that stuff. We talk banter the whole time, the whole time pretty much, except during the 24 minutes of radiation. Then when I went back down at 3 o'clock that same day, I asked them to listen to Nightwish, because they were jamming to Metallica, so I was like, well, let's listen to one of my favorite metal bands, Nightwish. And none of them really said anything about it, but that was interesting because they played songs from all the different eras. They started out with Nemo, and then they played Wish I Had Your Angel, of course. But then they played Amaranth, and then they played, not My Walden, but the other one with that Floor and the other guy that plays Troy sing more on, from Endless Forms Most Beautiful. Not my favorite song of theirs, but it was one of their bigger songs from there. Then they played, Ghost Love Score was never played, which was a bummer. Phantom of the Opera. Bye Bye Beautiful. So we had a lot of fun with that. They didn't really bring it up or talk about it too much. Then the next day, I had to go back in at 8 a.m., and I said, we're going to listen to some Gorillaz, because I had my Gorillaz shirt on that day. And so we listened, and the one lady was like, who are the Gorillaz? I've never heard of them. And me and the other two girls were like, yes, you have. You've definitely heard of them. And so she put on Gorillaz, and the first song they played, of course, was Feel Good Inc. And so she ran into the room and was like, you guys were right. I've totally heard this. And they played Feel Good Inc., then they played Clint Eastwood, and then they played, just a bunch of Gorillaz songs that are all their good ones. But that was really fun to see which ones they played, because I was kind of surprised by some of them. And it was just playlists, from Spotify, so it wasn't. Oh, also, they have the free version of Spotify, so I had to listen to ads. So that was always fun to listen to, like Master of Puppets and then an ad. And then the next Metallica song was so long that I had to listen to an ad again after that. So that was kind of fun. But we did Gorillaz, and that was really nice. And then for my last radiation, the last time I said, let's end it the way we started it, with 80s pop music again. And it was just some generic 80s pop music, nothing really special. And they never did play a-ha's Take On Me, so I was kind of bummed by that. But I did hear my mom's favorite song, Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Or no, it wasn't that one, it was Shout. It was Shout. Which actually I just saw yesterday that Cybreed, one of my favorite metal bands of all time, is going to re-release their entire back catalog on CD and vinyl, and one of the albums, Pulse of the Awakening, features a single that their cover song of the Tears for Fears song Shout, that they were doing around the 2005-2006 era when that album was released. But that's my least favorite of their albums, so I'm not going to get that one. But I will get their last album again, because my old terrible roommate named Austin took some of my CDs and then sold his car, where he left a bunch of junk in there, including some of my CDs. So anyway, Austin, you're a terrible person. But, so that was my radiation experience, and it was kind of fun. Honestly, overall, it was something I was not necessarily looking forward to, but it was something that I wasn't dreading. And one of the main reasons was the main guy who was in charge of it. And the last day, the second day, he was there for my testing both days, and then he came to my room to do testing the night before, so like the day, it doesn't matter, but he came to my room to do testing where they they marked my body again with some more marker stuff. Because at that point, I think they were thinking they weren't going to be able to do the specific radiation. They were going to have to do the total body, like, and rely on that. So, but this guy was really great. He was very fun, and he made the whole experience much more easy, I think, than it could have been if someone was just a stoic person. And the fun thing was, after they wheeled me out and I was sitting in the wheelchair again, just waiting for the person to come get me to bring me back up on the second day, he came out himself specifically and told me, I'm not going to be here anymore. I'm not going to be here tomorrow when you do your final 2 radiations, but I want you to know that the girls have been helping me the whole time. They're both going to be here, and you did a great job the whole time. And I thought that was really nice. It meant a lot to me. And I saw him for the first time without his mask, and he had this huge bushy mustache. This dude was epic. And he was like probably younger than me for sure. Like I would guess 32, 33 maybe, younger 30s, whereas I'm old 30s, gross looking, yuck, grandpa body. And but this guy was just a nice dude, great vibes, and he had this bushy mustache, like totally unironically, like really cool. He kind of looked like Ted Lasso. I've not seen Ted Lasso, but I'm definitely aware of what it is. So he kind of looked like that, but really fun guy. So I want to shout him out. So now we're already an hour and 14 minutes into this video, so I don't want to talk too long, but I just want to say a few things about the transplant itself. The day of the transplant, the night before, we got the ATG again, and so I was worried throughout basically the entire day that I was going to have another reaction to that. And like I said, I didn't have what I considered to be a bad reaction or anything, but I was kind of getting hot and cold flashes throughout the day, and at a couple points I had my mom cover my shoulders with a second blanket. So if that's all it was, I'm not going to complain about it and say that, I'm not going to complain about that. That was pretty easy to get through. But the actual transplant process itself, I don't know if I've talked about it that much in the previous video, but for the donor, what they do is they take blood from one arm, and I'm not allowed to know who my donor is, by the way. It wasn't anyone that I knew. The only person they tested was a person that I knew was my sister. They only test siblings, basically, for this particular thing. And my sister was not a match, which, thank God, because if anyone watching this video knows my sister, you'll know that Sarah is sick all the time. I bet right now, if I check my messages on my phone, there would be a message there saying, I'm so sick, blah, blah, blah. And so, I don't know who my donor is. I'm not allowed to know until 3 years after the transplant. If at that point I do want to know, I can fill out paperwork on my end, and they would have to fill out paperwork on their end, whether or not knowing either of us have done it, to then find out. And I guess it kind of makes sense, because you don't want someone to know that it didn't work, but I would definitely think if it did work, you would want them to know. And so I'll probably fill out the paperwork and in 3 years or whatever, and then it would be up to the other person to know whether or not they wanted to know. But that's not a hard decision for me, because I'll be great and fine and hopefully doing way better. And then they can reach out if they want to or whatever. So, let's see, what else? The day of the transplant, my dad came up, and he had helped us bring all my stuff here. And then he went back home, because he has to tend to the farm and everything. And my mom stayed with me for a day, and then she went back home for a few days, and then came back on my first day of radiation. And then she's been with me here since then. So she's been here with me the entire time. And it's now been a week since the transplant. But on the day of the transplant itself, it's very anticlimactic. They do it through my PICC line. So it's just through this line right here. They went through the purple. I think they went through the purple. And they just hooked up one bag. It was a very concentrated bag of the stuff. Oh, I started to say they hook up the donor up to one arm. They take blood from their arm. They run it through this like centripetal force machine thing to pull stem cells from the blood. And then they put the rest of the blood, the white and the white blood cells, the red blood cells, and the plasma back into the person, or not plasma, the platelets, as far as I understand, back into the person in their other arm. So, my doctor did tell me that they try to find a donor who is bigger than the person that they're donating to, which for me they were worried about because I'm such a big dude. But my doctor said they managed to find a pretty big fat guy, were his exact words. A pretty big chubby guy. And so I thought that was kind of funny. But he said it was great. So I know it was a male, and I know that it was a big chubby dude. So that's pretty great. But anyway, it only takes, I think, one time for them. If they can't get enough cells, they'll get more over subsequent times before they take it and they freeze everything. But since this guy had such great capture with it, I'm assuming he only came in one day and did it one day. I don't know where it was from. I could be from anywhere in the world. I literally don't know. They overnight fly it here. They collected it on Thursday, the 3rd, and then it was flown here overnight over the course of the day. And it got here later than they expected. My original transplant was scheduled for 6 p.m., but it didn't actually start until 7:30 p.m., which, if you're familiar with the 12-hour rotating shift for nurses, the two nurses who were I had 2 nurses that day, Derek and Rosa, and they were both wonderful. And Rosa was shadowing Derek because she is learning to become a nurse, doing this particular thing. And I was kind of bummed that they weren't able to do the transplant, but nurse shifts here change at 7 p.m. Or 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. So it's a 12-hour shift, and then this was our 3rd day, I think, 2nd day in a row with Derek and Rosa, and then we got them again the next morning. So it's nice when you can have the same nurses several days in a row because they kind of just know what's going on. You get to build a rapport with the people. It's nice when that can happen. But I was a little bummed because we'd been working up with them for 2 days, basically, getting ready for this process, and then they left at 7, around 7:30 actually. I think they were there actually during most of the transplant. Were they there for the whole transplant?
The nurse.
Derek and Rosa?
No, they'll leave, remember?
Oh, right, but I think they were there when we were starting it and stuff.
They were there when we started, I think.
Yeah, because they were talking about you can see through it and whatnot. It was a fun thing. Like, everyone's all excited and happy the whole time, and then there's nurses that like get the sample or whatever it is, the cells ready, and then they bring them up to your door, and they come in and they hook up the bag, and you're going. And we had talked to everybody about this process, and they said it can sometimes take like up to an hour and a half, and there's a lot of the time there's multiple bags. Well, my guy just had one bag full of really concentrated cells. And my doctor said something like normally they look for 5 to the 9 billionth power or something per cells per whatever. And this guy had a 9.9 billion cells to the whatever. So it was a very concentrated, smaller, it was a pretty big bag, but it was very concentrated, and it was just the one bag. And so they were trying to show me the stem cells that you can actually see when you hold a flashlight up to the thing. And I have a bunch of videos and pictures from this, so I'll include it in the video here.
See them. I don't know. I feel like with the other flashlights, you'll be able to see it a little bit.
Yeah, that's all right. That's good. Hold it down, Mom, so the light is behind the thing. Yep, like that. Nope, up. Up.
Hello?
You answered on your phone.
I didn't.
Well, they're talking out of your damn phone.
We hear you.
Hang on.
I can use my flashlight.
It's fine. How about like that?
That's a nurse, I think.
And I see it's getting darker outside a little bit because my light is going away, but that's fine. We're fine. So that was the transplant itself, which we knew it was going to be very anticlimactic, but a very important thing. And earlier in that day, we had gotten the balloon from my sister and my nephew and my niece, like I said. It says happy birthday on it. And a lot of people treat their transplant day as their new birthday because it's their new whatever. I don't know. I told them at the beginning of this whole process, I was like, I'm not going to be that guy. Don't do that. Don't have everyone come in and be like, happy birthday. As awesome as that would be. Would have been cool if it was April 1st. Then I could have had my new birthday on April 1st. That would have been funny. But anyway, that's Fred and George's birthday from Harry Potter. Anyway, it went fine. Totally went fine. I didn't feel sick, didn't feel hot, didn't feel nauseous, didn't feel anything, which is generally what it's like when I'm hooked up to stuff. And then I think Dad stayed here pretty late that night, and then he went home, and we were trying to convince him to stay, but he had something he wanted to do in the morning right away. And my dad's a very early riser. He gets up at like 6 o'clock every morning, no matter what. And but he had something he wanted to do the next morning, and I think he ended up leaving here around 10 o'clock or so he probably got home, well before midnight at like 11:30 or whatever. But he left, and then I don't think anything happened that night, did it, Mom?
I don't think so.
They just, throughout the whole day, they were giving me a lot of pre-medications. So they were giving me lots of different medication that were just like, this is to help with this is to help with this, so that you don't have any reactions to it. So I'm just going to assume that all the medications they gave me worked, and that, everything went hunky-dory because it was supposed to, and that's what it needed to be. So, yeah. And so, again, like I said, there's not really much to say about that. I have pictures and video and stuff that I probably put up here as I was talking. We talked to my sister. We Skyped them during the process, and I got to talk to my niece, which was really nice, and everyone was very supportive. Unbeknownst to him, one of my best friends, who I'd only talk to a couple times a year, Jason, he called me that day to just see how my whole transplant recovery was going. He did not know that I hadn't had the transplant yet. He thought my transplant was on the 28th, not the following Friday, the following week. So I talked to him for a little bit about everything that had been going on, and he very graciously listened for like 40 minutes. And it was nice to have him just call and talk, freeze a guy's mind up from everything going on, and you get to just talk to someone you haven't talked to in a while that means something to you. So that was really nice and special that happened. And it was a totally unplanned thing. Since I've been in the hospital, we've been staying in touch with my sister and my dad like every day. We call them multiple times. My mom calls my grandma all the time. She just lives by herself, but she's pretty old at this point and has some difficulties with that. And usually my mom helps take care of her a little bit here and there. They kind of divvy up the work between my mom and my aunt. So while my mom's here with me in the hospital, my aunt has to take up the heavy load that is. But my grandma's pretty fine in general. Don't worry about her. But we've been staying in touch with them. I've been staying in touch with my cousin Cody, who is someone we react with here on the channel all the time. He was very excited because they opened the new Goodwill in Grand Island, which is where he lives. And the first 100 people who got there that day that it opened were given a special card that was platinum status, Goodwill card, which basically is 10% off every order you have at Goodwill. And I was like, what? That's amazing. He was super excited, but he was bummed that it only lasts for half a year. It lasts for the rest of 2025. I was like, dude, that's most of the year. You're going to buy a whole bunch of stuff with 10% discount. He goes, yeah, but it'll be hard when that goes away. And he has to pay full price for stuff. I'm like, dude, just enjoy it now while you can. There's a fire truck, Mom, and a ambulance coming in, but they don't have their lights on. But I see both of them. It's not every day you see a fire truck come through here. So we've been staying in touch with people. I've been looking at Discord. I've been just keeping in touch with people online. One of my main things that I wanted to try to do, and I was very proud of myself for doing as much as I could, once our electricity came back on at home, before we came to the hospital, I got like 10 videos ready to be posted on the channel whenever I'm ready to post them. So I haven't really sat down and scheduled them yet, but I did post one just yesterday. I've got a couple of really great ones coming out here on the channel. If you've never heard of the band Pepe Deluxe, Cody and I have reacted to 2 of their albums over the last year. They're pretty old reactions, and I've been saving them for when we go into the hospital. But honestly, I think that one of the reactions for Queen of the Wave, their album Queen of the Wave, is one of the best reactions we've ever done here on the channel, easily. And I think it's one of the best albums I've ever heard in my life. And I can say that knowing that I'm not being hyperbolic. It's absolutely fantastic. But, I've got a lot of videos ready to post and stuff, so I was using all that kind of thing as a distraction type thing. And in the weeks since the transplant, I wish I could tell you that there was tons of exciting stuff, and there were a few things that were exciting. Some of them were gross, though. Probably the main thing that happened was, and this was something I was kind of being anxious about initially was I was going to have to get a feeding tube installed. They do it for everybody who goes through this transplant process. I was going to get a feeding tube installed where they go through your nose and then down into your stomach and then past your stomach, past your sphincter, which I thought was funny at the time. We were joking around about my sphincter. But the ladies came in and put it in that day, and that night I puked it out. So I puked it out. It came out of my mouth. It was going in my nose and out my mouth. And so the nurses were like, oh boy, this is not good. So they had to pull it out. And then the next day, they came back and put it back in. And while they were putting it back in, I puked while they were putting it back in. And the lady was like holding it in my nose so that it wouldn't come out my mouth. And so but I puked. She managed to get it all the way in there. They take the x-ray afterwards to like make sure it's in the right spot. It's 5 o'clock now, Mom, so she might come in at any time.
Okay.
So just let me know if she does, because I might not know. But it was weird and embarrassing and awkward and stuff. But then also that same day, I puked it out again. So I puked the feeding tube out my mouth again. Both times I felt sick the entire time I had the feeding tube in. So it wasn't the process of getting it put in, which was definitely uncomfortable and not great. But it wasn't that process. It was when they started the feeding tube, the moment they did, my stomach just felt so unsettled. It just felt sick. I felt nauseous. And I felt like that the entire time. And the moment I puked it up the first time, I was like, I feel so much better. Give me some food. Give me something to drink right now. And when I puked it up the second time, they were like, generally we try to put it in twice. And if it doesn't work, we'll try to... We might not try it anymore. And so then what happened was I developed this sore in my throat that prevents me from swallowing without it hurting quite a bit. And they said at that point, now it's too late. We're not going to put it in when you have any sores in your throat or in your mouth. So that is something that I guess I don't have. I'm not going to have that. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. So I'm trying to force myself to eat as much as I can, which is not very much. I have not been eating very much since we've been here. One thing I didn't mention that did happen over the course of us being here was when we first got here, they gave me so much water. Look, I don't know if you can tell, but I have goosebumps right now. I'm getting cold. But they gave me so many fluids that I ballooned up like huge. My legs were very swollen. My whole body was swollen. And when I came in, I think I weighed around 280 pounds, maybe a little more than that. But when they weigh you here, it's in kilograms. So the most I weighed while we were here was 128.9 kilograms. And over the last week or so, I've lost all that weight. And I'm now down to 112.8 kilograms. That's what I weighed this morning. So I'll let you do that math, but that's quite a bit. I think that's from like 290 to 250. So that's like 40 pounds of water weight I lost over the last few weeks. And I'm not eating very much, but I'm trying to eat as much as I can, trying to drink as much as I can. And that's been one thing that's kind of going on. The other thing, which I'm not going to talk about in this video, is my staph infection. I mentioned at the end of the last video that I had some sores here, and I mentioned it only because... Oh, I know this one fell down, Mom, again.
Okay.
I only mentioned it in that video because I said at the end of the video, I'm only mentioning this because I could see it becoming a huge issue. Well, I was right. It did become a huge issue. It's very uncomfortable for me. We had to take a biopsy, which is a story I'll tell for another time because it was really funny. But turns out it was staph infection. I have it under my arm here. I have it on my arm, and it goes around here, but thankfully nowhere near. It's pretty close to my pick, but not underneath it at all. And then I have one on my hip, sort of right on the side of my butt, and then one on this, like my right shoulder blade. And they're like these really gross-looking sores. I will not include any pictures or videos of that in this video, or probably ever. But it's very gross-looking. It looks like it's like a blister that popped, and then the skin just stays there. It's really gross. So sorry for that imagery, but that's something that's been happening as well. And I'll go over that maybe in more detail in another video because I don't want to... I feel like I'm pretty much done talking now, but we've been keeping up with wrestling. I've got to play Assassin's Creed, I think, twice. I did manage to get my headphones to work. I played through a whole level of Sifu, which is really cool, the museum level, which is really awesome. And we're going to end the video here on something else. Hopefully I can get this to work, otherwise I can't end the video on this, but you probably watching this video have noticed that I shaved my facial hair off. I had to, because it was just coming off. And now, the hair on top of my head is doing the exact same thing. So, I'm going to end this video. Sorry, I'm not emotional or anything, I'm tired of talking. I'm going to end this video with a video of us shaving my head. So let's go to that now. Okay, here we go. I want to see what I look like without. Give me the. Let's see what I look like if I had like a modern haircut. You know what I mean, like a Dominic Mysterio.
Nero?
Emperor Nero?
Yeah.
Don't you mean Nero
Yeah,
what?
yeah, that's what I meant. An emperor.
Yeah, I wanted like the
Roman
like a bowl cut.
yeah.
Yeah, but doesn't that look like some dumb haircut someone would have now? Don't you think?
Yeah.
You know, and with the
Yeah, with the long in the back.
yeah,
Mullety.
mullet, like a mullet.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go, everybody. Here I am with the mohawk. Doesn't look like much.
Keep going.
Yeah, go ahead. And I wanted to show down here the amount of hair that's in the thing. So, okay, thank you very much. See you guys next time. Okay, everybody, that's the last thing we'll talk about here. Thank you so much for caring, whether you do care a little bit or a lot. Everything, all the support means a lot to me. I get really nice comments on these videos, and I really appreciate all that kind of stuff. And like I said, keep your eyes out for really cool stuff coming up here on the channel soon. We've got 2 really great videos from a band called Pepe Deluxe. I know I mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to say it again because I want everybody to watch those videos. They're fantastic videos. Tune in, if nothing else, for my terrible British accent. But, yeah, that's going to be it for now. Today is April 13th, 2025. It's about a week and, 4 days? Today is Tuesday?
No,
Today is Sunday. So it's a week and 2 days since my transplant. So it's 9 days since the transplant. So this is my day plus 9. And we have to be here in the hospital until day plus 30. And then we have to stay here in Omaha at a hotel somewhere where they're going to put us until day plus 100. So I will definitely be making more videos, if not here, at the hotel or wherever we get put. So thank you, everybody. I look forward to talking to you all again next time, and I will see you then.